Up to 4 million people disappear every year. They are forced into labour and prostitution. That said, TBWA have created a campaign that emphasises this fact. Vanessa Gibson, who is the creative director of the campaign, joins us for more. Let's take a look.
We realized that this was a race against human traffickers to talk to the community directly. Like them, we targeted our most vulnerable people. Children at schools, or just walking the streets of poverty-stricken slums and dense urban townships where unemployment and forced prostitution are common. And just like the criminals, our most powerful weapon was deception. On the streets of their own neighborhoods, before the eyes of the community, we made men, women and children disappear. We created tunnels with false walls, which precisely matched the real walls behind them. And once we informed them with our message, we made potential victims immune to the lies of the recruiters.
Vanessa, welcome to the show. 4 million people per annum. Is this globally?
Yes, that is.
That is a shocking figure.
The shocking thing about it is that we're not even sure how accurate that is.
Could be more.
Could be more. Probably is more.
Wow. Who are the victims here, the potential victims, would you say?
Basically, I think anyone who is uneducated, they're poor, they're struggling, no means to an end, they believe the lies that are fed to them, they're offered amazing job opportunities, and yeah.
How were you approached to take on this campaign?
Well, our clients, the IOM, wanted us to do a campaign quickly, obviously on a limited budget. And the main message was to just get their toll-free number out and basically just start conversations, much like this one, get people talking to try and affect the people on the ground, the people who the traffickers would actually be targeting themselves.
Well, last week we had a conversation about how important creativity is for a campaign. Eve, don't you think that this is hitting the nail on the head in terms of being creative to get this message across?
Absolutely. This is a phenomenal campaign. It really is, and just shows you don't need millions of rand to make it work.
Exactly.
And I think the biggest thing for me about this campaign is that these issues are things people want to avoid. They don't want to listen to this message. So really it is, instead of giving them a message that they can avoid, you're actually getting people involved in the message before they even know it's happening.
Exactly.
And that is just phenomenal.
I mean, the people we targeted, we targeted 3 specific areas with our messaging. The one was a slum in Hillbrow, another one a township in Alex, and the third was outside a school that's actually in Rosebank. So we really crossed all markets.
Yeah. What challenges were you faced to erect these tunnels, you know, in these areas?
Gosh, all kinds of security permits, weatherproofing. The guys were actually incredibly smart. We just used scaffolding, as you can see. And erected a face wall along the scaffolding, which comes with its own safety permits, you know, so that made it easier.
What I think is quite clever here is the use of the potential victims, the actual, you know, the kids walking to actually drive through that message.
I just wanted to ask you a question in terms of, you know, you're obviously talking to a specific market and you were very specific in terms of where you put it. Did you get a lot of feedback from the community in terms of content and conversation?
I mean, overnight we were on hundreds and hundreds of blogs. Gareth Cliff spoke about us on his Drive Time show. We got into community papers, school papers and local papers, which for me is a job well done, because immediately people are talking about this.
Because that's the next question, is how measurable is this campaign? I mean, surely in the long term, if the 4 million drops, but in the interim...
That's the thing, how do you measure it? How do you measure someone who wasn't kidnapped?
Because it's really, it's education.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think for me the measurability was instantaneous. The fact that you got people you were talking to create content for you, the fact that the newspapers ran stuff, the PR value that you got out of it, and that you got communities talking about this issue. That for me is the biggest thing, getting those communities to start talking and making themselves less vulnerable to this.
Any chances of expanding this to other areas outside of South Africa?
Absolutely, hopefully. I think
Zimbabwe it doesn't just pertain to us, surely.
No, it's a global problem. We're looking at taking it into Zimbabwe. Yeah, so we'll see. Everyone needs to see this.
Are you also looking at extending it on other media platforms?
We'd like to. We'd absolutely like to.
I mean, I think that's the thing. You know, you've had the initial idea, but this really does work in terms of broadening it onto other platforms to make people more aware of this, because you are reaching a small market doing this kind of activation. But yeah, I think that's something you could explore, is how do you pull that into other media.
Vanessa from TBWA, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.